So, folks, it's the end of an era. Ellen posted to Instagram saying they taped the final episode of her show yesterday. She also thanked fans, saying, quote, being invited into your lives has been the greatest privilege of my life and has brought me incredible joy. The final episode will air at the end of next month, but this all came about 2 years after accusations of a toxic workplace. We talked about it, that Ellen's friendly daytime demeanor didn't match her actions behind the scenes. Jeff, you talk a lot about cancel culture, rightfully so in this climate. Do you think that she's a victim of cancel culture?
Yeah, and again, I have trouble with the word cancel culture. It's a stain more than anything, right? Because I think the pendulum's coming back a little bit. Yeah. Listen, you're not going to make everybody happy all the time. That's just the way it is, and it's easier on your own self if you try to accept that a little bit more. You're not going to be everybody's flavor. I think that speaks for Ellen too. Is she a great person all the time? Probably not, which makes her human. But she has done so much for the LGBTQ community, plus, I mean, just every community. What she does for Shutterfly, what she does for people that are less fortunate, she really gives back. So if she's a little difficult behind the scenes, I don't know. You kind of have to give and take. I love her because she gave me a trip to Australia when I was in the audience.
Kind of bought me. Tell the story, Jeff. This is her last show. People need to hear that story.
Well, I was in the audience. So we just moved to LA. My wife just finally moved out to LA. And I'm like, LA's great. There's so many things to do out here. And she loved Ellen, right? Just like everybody else. So I had a friend who kind of hooked us up with tickets. And he's like, just pick a day. We picked a random day. And then sure enough, Nicole Kidman was on. She started a new brand or new vitamin company with Ellen. And they gave the whole audience a trip to Australia.
And you went?
Great. And I was at the show, and we got a free trip to Australia, so Ellen bought my love. And even from this show, like me and Ira, our camera guy, would sit at 3 o'clock, relax, watch some Ellen, eat our lunch, have some laughs. So there's a lot of memories I have with Ellen, just like I'm sure with the audience as well.
What do you think, Erica?
You know, I think people in this moment, especially when it first happened, but even in this moment are like, oh, you know, she's going out bad. I don't think she's going out bad at all. Like, your legacy is the totality of everything that you are, all that you've ever done until the day that you die. And I think that, like Jeff said, she's had a tremendous impact on people individually, on pop culture. And also, I think there's a really important lesson to be learned when knowing when your time is up. She had been talking for some time about, you know, getting ready to wrap it up. And I think sometimes you miss that call that, hey, it should have been now. And I think had she listened to that from the beginning, she would have avoided all of this. And I definitely am listening to her.
And it did impact her ratings, let's be honest. Like, there was a stain there, you know, and the consequences may be well-deserved. We don't know. But according to those allegations, those are the consequences. Now, can you compartmentalize and say she did so much for the LGBT community? I mean, when she came out, let's first look at this video. I want you guys to see this, because this was 25, 30 years ago.
Wow.
Susan, I'm gay.
So that was 25 years ago, for context, tomorrow. She was shunned by the industry, shunned. Right. Now look at, now we're in a much better place. We're not where we need to be when it comes to LGBTQIA rights, but we're almost there. Right. Do you think that her ratings, though, falling a million less people watching her had something to do with this being her final season?
Absolutely, but it's probably a combination of a lot of things. She's at the end of an incredible run. There were definitely some things that were going on there that probably weren't great. Doesn't need to speak on it, but it just doesn't. It seems like there was some smoke there. And also at the end, like, we are all human beings and we have a finite amount of energy. And when you see people kind of at the end, whether it's an athlete or a singer that you go see and you're like, oh, their voice isn't there anymore. It's great to see them, but you'd rather see people kind of go out on top. And I feel like even no one's going to think about her last season 3 years from now, 2 weeks from now. They're going to be like, Ellen's great.
But there's an important part of her last season. She was hardly there. Yeah. So if people were watching the show to actually see Ellen, there were a lot of guest hosts. It wasn't the Ellen show that they were used to watching. So I don't want to be like, well, you know, she lost her spark. It's like, she wasn't there.
Yeah.
That's a good point.